towards the knives. Now you can see this beautiful specimen that we have in front of us. We get our bacons, our pork chops, our loins, our ribs, our hams, our Boston butt, all that will come from this piece of meat here. So we have been blessed to try to use every bit of this, and we're going to be able to show you every step of the way. Now, the reason I want to show you this video is for me, I'm not a professional butcher by any means, but it allows you to see that even at your house, on your own kitchen table, you can break down the pork. And we're going to take this big, beautiful pig and make it some scrumptious meals, and then be able to use the smokehouse to cure out some of this. So I'm so excited. I really am. I'm excited to show you this process, and we want to bring you along and show you the cuts that we're making today. So we're going to go through some different cuts, some primal breakdown, and then from there we're going to put pieces off the table, work with just pieces, go through every little cut and detail that we do on those. And I hope this helps you take your pig and make it pork to put on your table. True farm to table kind of stuff right there. So we have the base of the back end of the hog. This is actually your ham. So we have our ham, and then of course you have your middle, which is your side, your bacon, all that beautiful inside. This is where really I'd say the money maker of the hog is, because this is where your pork chops is, your loins, your ribs, and your bacon. All right, and then you have your front shoulder. This shoulder is made up of your picnic, and then your Boston butt. People think the Boston butt is at the butt end. It is not. It's actually at the shoulder end. The top shoulder is your Boston butt. So we'll talk about the four cuts we're actually fixing to make now. We're going to take the shoulder off, so we'll be left with the pork shoulder, of course the hock, and then the Boston butt. Then we'll cut here, basically leaving us our side, which is going to be the actual pork belly. Down here, the beauty, the bacon. And then you're going to have your rib cage and your loin, which is your pork chops. All that will be in the middle. And then, of course, that beautiful, beautiful ham. Now, as you see, this right here, now we'll take this out, but this right here, this is that beautiful, beautiful leaf lard, all this right here. So we're going to go ahead and get this out now. The tenderloin is right here. We're going to go ahead and try to get it on out too. And then we will get started on the true cuts we're fixing to make. Okay, so we're going to get this out here, cut this off. And that comes right out. This right here is actually where we're going to cut our hams first, but before we're going to try to get this tenderloin off. So what we're going to do is take our boning and cutting knife that we have and basically just grab right there, and you're going to work off. Remember, our knives are very sharp, so you want to try to do as close to the rib cage as you can. And we're just going to ease it off and make those first cuts there, right along the rib cage. So that allows us to get that tenderloin started off there. Now, say you're wanting like a porterhouse pork chop. If you're wanting a porterhouse pork chop, you'd leave those on, and that would be where your chops would start. And you'd have kind of both sides on your bone. But we're going to cut that off. Before we do that, since I got this right here, what I want to do is go ahead and make a few cuts and get this leaf lard off here. Because actually, we could salvage this right now. And leaf lard is actually the cleanest part, the purest part of the hog lard. Now we're starting this right here. It's actually a little frozen, which I didn't want, but it's easier to work with when it's frozen than when it's actually here we go. It just pulls right away from there. It's easier to work with this hog when it's frozen than when it actually gets thawed out and warm. So we're going to take this, and basically you're just going to rip this out here right on the seam. It just comes right off. If you need to help, so I'm going to get down a little bit. See how you got just a little right there? Just cut your seam. The seam's right on out there. Cut it again. Try not to cut into your meat. That's right out there. seams on out. So there we go. Beautiful, beautiful leaf lard. Basically, this will be rendered down and added to. It's kind of what your Crisco is. If you think about Crisco shortening, that's kind of what you're looking at, is that version there. All right, so let's go ahead and get this tenderloin off like we originally started. I'm just gonna ease it off from the bone. It's got a little seam. You just follow your seam. There's your tenderloin right there. There's that beautiful tenderloin right there. You can clean it up. We'll get some of the extra fat off. But that's the tenderloin. Really the most tender part of the pig, to be honest with you. So you can see right here, we've got the tenderloin out, and this is just some of that rest over fat that's kind of left. We'll cut some of that fat out as we go. But this is where you have your main first cut. This is your ham, like I said. Now, what you want to do is, where we're going to cut this is actually where the sirloin is. The sirloin sits right here. We're going to cut that at the sirloin. Now, but we're going to run between these two bones that's already here. So you have your H bone, which is right here. You have your back, basically, of your actual whole backbone right here, and this is kind of coming out the inside here. So we're going to run kind of at a good angle that's right there close to those bones, kind of running between them. Now we'll cut through that back side of that bone there, but ultimately we're going to kind of run right alongside those bones. Now, because this is your bacon, we want to get it out of the way. So we're going to make a cut right here with our knife and just cut this back and kind of fold this out of our way. So that way when we take our saw, we'll be able to cut straight through those bones and then take our breaking knife and go ahead and break the rest through there. So that's what we're going to do right now. All right, so we're going to take our knife and we're going to basically, right where the ham kind of ends, right there, we're going to kind of cut this out of the way. Now you don't have to do this. I've seen some people go straight through. But basically, we just want to kind of work that right there and just kind of get it out of the way. So we got skin on this hog. So we're going to it's going to take a little bit to cut through. All right, so there we go. We've got it cut and basically kind of out of our way, because ultimately that's our bacon. So we're trying to keep that as good and whole as possible without a lot of cuts. That's really, I think they call that the flank. That's your flank right there. So now we're going to go and make that cut. And what we're going to do is kind of work it right through here. We'll kind of make a line. And then there's the line right there. And then of course it's going to come right out and hit that bone there. So we're going to go ahead and use our saw. Well, first I'm going to go ahead and make one more little knife cut so I kind of know where I'm going to guide myself. And again, let your knife and your blade do your job. If you don't have a sharp knife, this could be hard. So I'm going to use our bigger knife, our true bone-in knife, and just work it right through here. Now again, I'm using these. We put it in the freezer to get it cold. Now we're letting it defrost, so it's still a little frozen on these bigger pieces here. However, I'd rather work with it frozen or cool versus warm. It also helps with, no blood, and makes the cuts easier because you can kind of move it and bend it everywhere. So we're going to cut through this bone. Once we're through that bone, we're going to take away and not use the saw anymore. You don't want to use the saw on the main meat. You want to use it on the bone only. All right, we heard the sound get away from cutting to the bone, so we're going to take our knife, try to work some more in there, and then we'll have to use our saw once more once we get down here to the end where that other bone comes right to the leg. You just want to ease it off. Now again, mine is a little frozen, so mine's going to be a little harder than probably yours if you're using a fresh side of a hog. I'm just going to work it through. My wife may be mad. Don't show her this video because this is our table and I'm trying not to make a mark on it. So she's still asleep because this is about 4:30 in the morning. So please don't show her this part of the video. Cut it all the way through. All right, so we're gonna finish it out right there. Cut through the skin. Ham. As a bone-in ham so far, we'll work a little bit more on it, but that is what will start our smoking our country ham right there. So let's get it out of the way. Okay, so now that that's done, we've got basically the whole hind quarter and the hind end of the ham off. You see that flank right there, we got it laid back out, didn't get hurt, it's a perfect square. So now we have our side, so we're gonna take our side, which is the loin and the belly, and separate it from the shoulder. And that's actually where the picnic and the Boston butt is, which is if you're using pulled pork, either piece is phenomenal. What we're gonna do is keep our Boston butt and take our shoulder and probably make sausage because we eat more sausage than anything. Okay, so when we talk about splitting the shoulder, there's not a wrong way. I've seen people literally take it from the first rib to the second rib to the third rib, even down to the seventh. What we've seen with a lot of people who actually know what they're doing and not home butchers like us, we see about the third or fourth rib is pretty much it. That way it keeps you a good set of ribs, but also gets your Boston butt meat off. So now we do have some bones to go through here. So what we're going to do is count these ribs, 1, 2, 3, 4. And what we're going to do is make a cut right there. And it's going to just go straight through that line. We just want to make sure that we have a marking, because again, we're fixing to run the saw through here. And same thing here, we're just going to run straight right through there, through the back, all the way up. Again, Boston butt, and making our mark right there, all the way down. So we're going to kind of start it with our cut right there. We're going to get to bone, and that's where we'll stop until we get the saw involved. Doing the same thing through here. Just kind of work our way through these ribs. Cut all the way through. Typically your riblets are here at the bottom where those loose little bones are. So you just make your way all the way through. So we've got to cut basically all the way through. And again, I want to use my knife way more than I want to use my saw. So I'm going to just kind of work it all the way through this rib cage here. Hear how it went from sound like bone to where it hits meat. So you see I'm not that deep into it, so I'm just going to work my saw out right there because I don't want to use my saw unless I have to. So again, using my big knife, I'm just going to work through that area that has already been sawed. Just kind of make it all the way through. Last cut of the skin. Alright, so there is your beautiful picnic shoulder Boston butt. Okay guys, so now we have the front shoulder off that we just cut off. The hind end, the ham, all that's cut. So now we are left with this beautiful side. Now this is where I'd say your money of your animal is. So now we're going to separate the loin from the belly. Now here's what we're going to do. You want to make this imaginary line from here, or it's not imaginary, you just want to kind of basically mark it. So we're marking it right there. And basically you want to go at the very end right here to where you want to put your sirloin. So you're going to go from right here, there's a natural seam if you see it, kind of seams right here. See that? There's a little seam. And we're gonna kind of work that. It's kind of where your tenderloin and your leaf lard was. We're gonna kind of make that a seam and work it all the way straight, just like that line we just did. So we're gonna go from here all the way to here. So you see that? Now here's where you're getting to where, what is a baby back, what is a spare rib? When you say spare ribs or baby backs, this is your spares. This is your longer spares that sits on top of your bacon. This is your baby backs, your smaller set. So when you cut these big pork ribs, you're actually making your spares and your baby backs. And remember, you want to try to cut this as even as you can, because you don't want to hurt your bacon, your pork belly here. So let's go ahead and just make that mark again, make it a little bit more distinctive so I won't mess up on the saw. And this is where you want to be as careful as possible without cutting into everything. So I'm going to first make the cut with the knife right here and get it to here. And then we'll start using the saw. And there's that natural seam. You'll find it, and you just want to go straight down from there. There's no bone right here. So I'm just going to separate the top of the loin, which is really your sirloin, then your pork chops. So I'm going to kind of separate that right there. And that way I kind of have a mark to go with. And then just kind of make my line right there. So we are stuck to where we're at that angle. They start cutting from here all the way to the very tip corner of the ribs, kind of where that chine bone comes in. It's all gonna kind of come to that corner right there. All right. Now you are now cut to your primals. You have your ham, you have your belly, which still has your ribs, you have your loin, your sirloin, and then also all your pork chops and your baby backs. Then you have your main shoulder, which is your pork shoulder, picnic shoulder, and rump roast, or which, we call it a Boston butt. So there's your Boston butt. So you are down to primals. What we're gonna do, we got one more half to cut up on this pig. We're gonna cut that up, get it into primals, and then we're gonna show you how we're breaking each primal down to put it in the freezer. All right, so we're gonna start, you hear the kids in the back, they're acting crazy, and we got a little daylight, so we're gonna go and start with the loins first and get those broke down. We're gonna do boneless chops, and then we'll take the baby backs off too, so you'll be able to see that. And then we'll start working on the shoulders, and then we'll let the bacon be last to do. So let's work on the loins first and get them broken down to get these pork chops, the sirloin roast or the sirloin chops, and then of course get the baby backs off. Okay, so you see, this is the loin we have here. You see kind of where that kind of takes a dip right there, and you come to the very end of your spine, all the way to the end. This chunk right here is actually, that's actually your sirloin. That is where we'll get the sirloin chops or sirloin roast. It's the very back end of the back. So we're gonna cut that off first, and what we're gonna do is just kind of make a cut right on that bone, and right between that we'll twist it off because it's not really a bone holding that on there. So we're gonna make a slit cut all the way through. There's one little chunk of bone right there, see it? And then what we'll do is actually make that cut and pop that off. All right, so it's all the way cut through other than the bone that's right here. Now you could take it and pop it. Because my space is limited though, we're gonna go ahead and just cut straight through that bone. It's really just the back side of that bone, and then the kind of the very end of where the backbone comes to the tail. All right, so there's your sirloin roast. I mean, this is actually where the tenderloin was. If you remember, we already took it out we'll now start separating really the baby backs right here. We'll get those off and then have basically boneless chops, and we'll start cutting those up too. We'll also get all this, we'll work on both sides basically, so you're really not making any more bone cuts on the loin as much as just taking the actual loin off the rib cage here. All right, so if you're wanting a lot of rib and a lot of meat on your ribs, this is where you'd leave some of that on there, or even on your bacon, on your spares. But your baby backs, we don't care for ribs as much as we like the pork chops. So there's natural seams right there. You just want to simply run your hand, you can feel it. So you're going to take your knife and do the same thing. Now, let me go back and start first before we go any further. Typically, if you're doing a skin on hog or skin off hog, if you're doing skin off, this skin would be off and you're not gonna worry about that with your pork chop. And then you could even take some of this fat off, which is what we're gonna do. Before I start cutting, I'm gonna go ahead and remove this skin and also some of this fat, because we don't need that all on our pork chop. And plus, I don't wanna take individual pork chops and try to skin them. So what we're gonna do is go ahead and take the skin off here and some of this fat layer before we actually start cutting into our meat. It's easier because it's on a bone, so it allows me to kind of work it and not get kind of flimsy on me. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. You can still use this skin and this fat if you're making cracklings or some kind of pork rind or something like that. It's very good to use. You can render this lard down. I think it'd be fine too. It's not gonna be as clean tasting as what the leaf lard is, but you can use it. And what I'm wanting to do, I'm wanting to leave a little fat, because this fat is good fat. It tastes good on your meat. It actually melts in your mouth compared to like a store-bought piece of pig. So, but I'm gonna go ahead and get the skin off, because I sure don't want skin on my pork chops. And you can see, you can follow a natural seam and just kind of ease it off. Now say you're skinning your pigs instead of scalding. That's why we actually did not butcher, because we, in our case, we had to pay somebody to help scald it. Now it wasn't much, at all. And it's actually still way cheaper than anything else we've done. But they scald, they don't skin. So on that case, it makes it not tons more work, but it does put a little bit more work on me to get the skin off of each individual primal cut. You don't want to do it individual, like you're not going to take it off each piece of bacon or each pork chop. You don't want to do that for sure. But you want to just kind of get it off when you have it like this, when it's a whole set, to work it off together. And then that way when you start making your individual cuts, you're not having to individually take off the fat and skin. Now you see I'm leaving a good chunk of fat on the pork chop. I like fat on the pork chop, but I don't want 1.5 inches worth of fat either. So you see I'm just going to gently work this off and make your way. Just be careful, because you are using your fingers to pull against the skin. And again, this is why it's always good to have a good knife. And you see I've sharpened it. I don't know if you saw me sharpen it a while ago, but I'm constantly sharpening it, because I want to make sure it's doing like it's supposed to be doing and cutting, because I don't want it cutting me. So now I'm on the back side. I'm just going to have to ease this off here. That skin right at the end might get a little tough. Just go ahead and cut it off. All right, so now we're going to flip it. I'm cutting to the side because I don't have chain mail. I don't have any kind of border on me. So if you have something where you can work towards you, just be careful, because if this knife, as sharp as these knives are, the last thing you want to do is be working it towards you. All right, so that's your skin with some fat on it. We're gonna probably take off, I might take off a little bit more fat here. And have this here. Other than that, that's a pretty good bit. There's a little extra fat right here we'll go and take off. All right, so that's good fat. We'll be able to utilize that with our sausage, the skin on, and we can cut that up and make pork rinds out of it. We'll see. So there's that. Let's get it out of our way now. Let's take this bone off these chops here. Again, using my normal seam, we're gonna start from this side first, which is gonna be not your backbone side, it's gonna be actual rib side, where we made the cuts. And you can kind of see where your ribs start. You just kind of come to the end of them. And let's see, let's get a cut coming here. that seam. See how easy that was? Just cut on your seam. And you're just gonna work it down without cutting into your loin. You want to not hurt your loin by cutting it down, but you want to make sure you get to the end. And you see there's a natural seam right here. You can see it. That's where that natural seam is. That comes right popped off right there. So it easily pops off. What we'll do is cut it. Now this is those main rib cage, and then you got these kind of like floating chunk ribs right here. We're gonna get those off too. Just like that. It's just tedious. It's tedious cutting. Again, I'm not a butcher, so some guys may be a lot quicker than me at it. Just gonna keep cutting. Trying to cut, not cutting your pork chop. All right, now let's flip over to the other side here. Doing the same thing on this side. On your end. Like this. You just work your pork chops off the bone here. All right, so we've separated that rib, the baby backs, and basically this is just extra part here that you could cook. It's gonna be like little riblets, I guess you could call it. So that's been separated. There's some sinew skin on here. We'll pull that off in a little bit. That's not a big concern. You can take one of your meat hooks, just rip right under that and rip that off, because the last thing you want to do is have that on your rib. So we're gonna lay this over here. So we've got our sirloin right here. We've got our, we'll see, here's our sirloin right there. Beautiful sirloin. We've got our baby backs right here, which we'll cut, make them pretty, all that good stuff. And of course, now we've got boneless chops right here. So we're gonna go ahead and cut these into boneless chops. We've trimmed that fat down, so there's not a lot of fat on there. It's a good bit of fat, but not so much that where it's overtaking them right here. All right, so this is where that bone is coming in here. We'll take that on off too, and that'll actually probably be a pork roast we're gonna have there. So we'll have that cut. This will be a pork roast, and the rest will be complete chops. All right, so there's a gorgeous, gorgeous little pork roast. It's got the bone in there. If you want to take that bone out, see, look, there's that separates. You can pull that bone right out of there. But I'm gonna leave this as a bone-in pork roast. That way it cooks better. That bone will help it kind of, I don't know, taste good, get some good flavor in there. But look how gorgeous that marbleization is right there. Look at that. Gorgeous. So there's the pork roast. We're gonna cut these in about 1 inch thick, or 3/4 of an inch thick on pork chop right there. And we'll keep this process going there, but look how gorgeous this chop is. Look at that. Look at that chop. Gorgeous chop there. Beautiful, beautiful pork chop. Look at that, melt in your mouth. It almost pulls apart. That's what you want with your fat ratio on your homegrown pork chop. All right, so this is all just one side. You see the other side's right here, so we're gonna work on it next. These are my boneless sirloin roast, little cutlets. Gorgeous, thick, little beautiful cutlets. Look at that, gorgeous cutlets there. So I took my sirloin, made it boneless, made my pork chops boneless. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 on one side of thick, beautiful pork chops. Look at that. Gorgeous. All right, so now we've got the ham, we've got all the pork chops done. Look at this, this is from one hog. I've got 55 pork chops right there. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. So we've got that. Now we've got our ham. Typically you can see this is a bone-in country ham. The only thing I'm gonna do with this right now, so we could freeze it, is I'm gonna cut the hock off. The trotter's already gone, but I'm gonna cut the hock off. If you choose to smoke it, you can smoke it and use it in beans, turnip greens, all that good stuff. But we are gonna get the hock off just to make it a little bit more easily able to store. Also remember, the bigger your hock is, the more cure you need to get in here. And what I mean by that is when you have all this to try to get cured out, because one day we'll cure this out, we'll show you a video on that. But this is just considered a fresh ham right now. But I want to cut this hock off so that way when we do cure this out and we do smoke it, we're not having a major issue of trying to get seasoning and cure in here, especially since we're using more of a natural cure versus a true pink salt. So we're going to go ahead and cut this off. All you want to do is just make a cut with your knife all the way around the hock. Just make it all the way around. Okay. All right, there's your hock. If you want to smoke it, you can cut it, take this meat out of it. What do you want to do? We don't really use them, but you can season with it if you would like to. So there's the hock. Here's the fresh ham. It is ready to go. It's a bone-in style, and probably we'll make it a country ham. Cut the hock off, so this is the spots you really want to season when it comes skid on like this. So we're complete with this also. All right, so you see we're going to work on the front shoulder, and then we'll work on my favorite part, which is the bacon. So we need to get this piece of bone out. This is basically just the rest of the rib cage, the rest of the backbone, the neck bone, all that just needs to come off. The Boston butt's right here, the picnic's on here, but we gotta get this bone off of it first. You can use this bone to cook. You can, cook it down, let your dogs have it, whatever you want to do. But we're gonna get it off here first, and then we'll be able to work with this piece of meat. All right, so we're just gonna work our way around this bone here. This is the rest of the rib cage. If you want a smaller Boston butt and smaller picnic and more ribs, then you let these ribs go for ribs. If you're wanting basically a bigger Boston butt and bigger picnic and you're wanting a lot more pulled pork, then cut it like this and just cut the rest of this off here with this neck bone. Mm-hmm. All right, so there you go. There's the neck bone, the rest of the rib cage. This needs to be out of here now. All right, so you see on here, it's got some bloodiness all through here. So we're gonna cut some of that out. We want a clean meat, so we're gonna cut this part out, save what we can for sausage, and then the rest we'll cut into our actual Boston butt and our pork picnic. So let's put that right here. We'll put this with our scraps over here. You can see how this has just got some damage all right here. We'll just kind of cut this out. Just that extra blood. It's just no need to put in our sausage or anything. So we're gonna cut that out right there.
Give that to the dog. You can cook that and give it Hattie Mae, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you lightly grill it, because you can't give it to him, you can't give all that to him raw, right?
All right, so like all that, it just needs to be thrown away. Now, it's just one big chunk. Now there is one bone coming in here, where it's actually where the hock is. So we're gonna let it go straight through here. There's not a wrong way to cut this, or to me it's not. Again, I'm not a professional butcher, but I'm just gonna cut it basically almost right down the middle. Now there's the bone that's coming through here. If you wanna make a boneless picnic, which doesn't make any sense, you can, but I'm just gonna basically cut right here, and we'll have to cross through one part of the bone that's not cut out, which is gonna be that leg coming in. So I'm filling it right there with my knife, but I'm gonna make all my cuts all the way around it, because if you can use your knife all the way through. All right, so right there. So the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this, cut right here in the middle, cut that bone in too. All right, so I made that cut right there, also cut the hock off. So this is ready. This is your true picnic right here. And what we'll do is probably clean some of the skin off when we cook it, or just cook it with it, it doesn't matter. So that one's pretty much done, like the ham. This is the Boston butt. Now what I am gonna do is cut some of this extra fat off and cut some of the skin off. That way it'll be ready to be smoked and basically cooked as well. So huge Boston butt. We like our bone in, because I wanna be able to pull that H out of here when it's cooked. That way I know it's done. I don't tie mine up, but some of this extra fat, I'm gonna leave some of this, but I'm gonna cut all this out and then we'll score the rest. So this will be done too. So we're gonna cut this fat off right quick and the skin off, just like that. And these will be ready to seal up and wrap up as well. Okay, so now we've got everything done but the sides. And this is actually where we're looking at the pure pork belly, the spare ribs. Now, like I said before we kind of get started on this, I need to get this skin off because we don't like rying on bacon. So we're gonna take this skin off. Again, if you are skinning your pig, I actually think you'd come out better than if you're doing the pig with, you know, skin on. Personally, I just think it comes out better once it comes down to how everybody's doing it. So I'm gonna cut this off before we take this bone out. That way it can stand up a little bit, and then we'll take these ribs off right quick. Right, so we've got the skin off. What I'm gonna do is just kind of square it up, take this little bit right here, make great sausage. I mean, look at all that. We're gonna cut that up as sausage ends because it was just the end of the bacon anyway. So we've got it all cleaned off. We've got the extra skin off. Everything's off. So now we take the spares off. It has a natural line right there. And basically you just work it back with your knife. So we're gonna take our knife and just work the ribs off. Now here's where you say, okay, if you want country style ribs, or you like to eat ribs more than you like bacon, which I don't know how anybody would want that. But if you do, you would actually cut deeper into your bacon and leave some of that belly on this rib cage, and that's how you actually get country style ribs or thicker ribs. We like bacon way more than we like ribs. So we're gonna just cut this off just like that, and we're gonna follow the rib cage all the way up. And see, this is gonna come to a point right here. So we're gonna just come right here at the edge of this and just make a line to where we can cut right under it. So we're gonna do that. Again, try not to get all in the meat of the bacon, and you might get in some, especially people like me who are not professional butchers. We'll come around the end of the rib cage and just cut underneath it, and they come right off. You just need to make your cuts, but don't cut into your bacon, because again, your bacon is precious. So we just cut right there above it, right following your bones in your rib cage. And this is where that comes to a head, so we'll cut that. There's got a little bone right there, so we'll cut that kind of off. All right, keep on coming. You see that line I made, so we're gonna keep on coming. Just let your knife do the work. Hold on. All right, so you're gonna cut this, and they're gonna come right off. See that line that I was working towards? Just pop right off. All right, there's your ribs right there. That's your spare ribs. Look good. Again, take your meat hook. You can hook under that right there and just pull if you're wanting to get that sinew off and that kind of junk that you don't want cooking. See how it just comes off? It just peels right off right there. And you just peel it back. And there you go, you got some spare ribs. We'll work with those later. Now look at this beautiful bacon. Man, look at this bacon. All right, so you don't have to make a pretty, you know, it don't have to be perfectly square. If you want to square some of this up, we like sausage just as much as we like bacon. So we may square this up to make it easier to hang, easier to deal with. But man, look at that pork belly. Gorgeous, gorgeous thing. So we're not gonna cut this up any more than this. You'll see a video of us taking this now, this big slab of bacon, and actually making this pork belly into bacon by curing it out the natural way, smoking it, and then cutting it up.